I bet the juicy, flippy, flocky, like, these dudes fucking love this thing. They're like, oh God, bro, look at it. It flies low to the grass and flips fast. All right, so I was gonna make this video yesterday, but I was a South Pole elf and I was very angry, and I decided, well, actually I didn't decide, the weather decided that I shouldn't have made that video yesterday, so I'm glad that it rained last night and allowed me to have some time with my thoughts so that I can make this video. But ultimately I'm testing some things. I'm testing motors, props, and ESC and FC stuff. So I'm gonna give you like kind of a small background of my favorite quad and the setup of this favorite thing. This is like, this particular quad, it's passed QC about 150 times, as you can see, and it's had a bunch of arms replaced and just things over the years. But in reality, like this quad and this FC, which is an MPU 6000, which is an older G4 FETTEC flight controller GPU, or not GPU, but the gyro, and then there's a FETTEC 45 amp in here. And I have been flying an old school KISS firmware from like 3 or 4 years ago that has this weird bug when you touch something with a prop while you're flying, that motor stops and the quad falls out of the sky and there's no way to recover from it. So I just try not to touch stuff when I'm flying so that this quad flies so well, but obviously it has that one quirk that I'm always trying to get away from. And the reason I've done that is because this particular analog, it's just got like the Mr. Steele cam that's unavailable now. It's got a 5-volt VTX from TBS. It's got a Triumph Pro on the back of here. I'm running Tracer 2.4 gigahertz. I've got a Apex 5-inch Mr. Steele lightweight frame with all the aluminum hardware. I've got a G4 flight controller and a FETTEC 45 amp ESC, and then the OSD is built in from the old school when I ran the Alien that's no longer available, and it has the microphone and it has all these cool features. And it has the OSD that's built in to the actual frame. Like there's a PCB in here and there's a little power distribution board back here that kind of regulates that and has an LED and stuff. So anyways, this quad with the Action 2 has been my favorite quad to fly. With this battery and everything, it weighs about 620 grams, and I run my V4 motors. The reason I run the V4s on this is just because they're a little bit lighter. They're 2306s, sorry, 2306s. And the whole thing, like I said, weighs about 620 with this battery and an Action 2. Now, this particular vehicle, quad, has some kind of funky juju about it that flies really, really well. I have 6 of them that are identical. None of them fly like this one. I don't know why. Same tune, same PID, same firmware, same hardware, everything. This one has something about it that I like. I don't know what it is. Again, it's not like pristine or anything. I have other ones that fly very close to it, but they're newer, so I'm a little less apt to just like send it into stuff, where this one flies really well and it's kind of beat up, so it's like the perfect quad for me because I'm not scared to scratch it, but it also flies the best. Now, when I talk about like changing stuff, that setup is probably realistically from maybe 2020, so like 4 years, and it hasn't changed. Maybe 2021. Realistically, that's been the same since 2021, and that's the way that I fly. I'm flying analog. I have a bunch of digital stuff, but I just really like how that flies. It suits my flying style. I've talked about this in other videos, but I needed to reiterate it in a modern video. Is why I fly the way I do is because back in the day when I first started flying 10 years ago, there was no digital video, it was all analog, so the range sucked, but the latency was super low. So realistically, you just fly really close and do as crazy many flippy floppies as possible, and also I have a skateboarding background, so that ultimately kind of added to how I fly my drones. Now, when it comes to new things, I'm very open to trying them if they don't cause me a crazy headache, but I'm also a little wary to try certain things if they're like the new hype, because there's so many variables that making a quad fly well, and particularly setting it up for your flying style, which I know if you're a newer FPV pilot, you don't really know what your flying style is. You might have a favorite pilot that you're trying to emulate, or you might have a favorite style that you're trying to emulate, and you're kind of mimicking your aircraft based on that, and I think that's a great way to go. that is how I did it. When I started flying, I was watching Boris B and Metal Danny, and these guys were flying through the woods really fast and like quick transitions and flips and stuff. And then that's how I trained myself to fly that certain way. And then I added my own little flair, which was the skateboarding trick style stuff. So again, new stuff. I'm very aware that there is plenty of new things that have come out. I come out with new products sometimes with ETHiX, and it takes me a minute to figure out what I'm trying to do and what I really want to make, because there's so many things that'll just get copied immediately, or even I've taken some designs that I thought were close to perfect and made them perfect for at least my application. So I'm not completely like hands-free. I haven't ever copied anything, but there are some things that I've, you know, manipulated in ways that I think make them better, and then I try to make them different enough to where it's going to, you know, facilitate a reasoning for change. Now, back to the quad that I think is the most perfect quad in the world. This particular quad right here has some prototype props on it. Now, when I'm testing new things, I take my like preferred setup, which is this quad with P3s on it. So they're the 5.1 HQ props. They're peanut butter and jellies, 5.1 by 3, and 3-bladed props, obviously, which are these props right here. And I fly a pack. I know how the quad flies. It's so natural to me. I just go out and I do it. I get a good baseline, and then I swap one thing. And in this case, I'm testing the J30 prop, which is another HQ prop. It's got a little bit of a different profile as far as the propeller is concerned. It's kind of swept back like this, and it's also a 4.9 pitch or 4.9 inch prop. Like the diameter is 4.9 inches versus the 5.1 of the P3s. That's the only thing I changed. I flew it around, and then I go back and I fly the P3, and then I go back and I fly the J30 or whatever, J33, whatever prop I'm testing if I'm doing a prop test. And I can tell you right now that every little change that you do affects obviously how the aircraft flies and how it's going to perform. This prop in theory should fly as, if not have more thrust, but it should fly a little snappier than this, because this is a 5.1, it's a 4.9. Oh, it's a little smaller, so it rotates a little faster. It's got a little bit more pitch, it should have more thrust. I don't personally think that this prop is suited well for this particular setup. I think it's a little down on thrust for me, and I also think it's a little, I don't know the durability because I haven't crashed it yet, but it's just a little doughy to me. Like when I do a roll, it doesn't snap. And obviously all of these things can be changed with tune, and they can be changed with the motor combination. So really, I'm trying to get across to you that there's 100 different ways to make a quad fly a certain way. It just depends on how do you want to go about making it fly that way. Do you want to adjust the motor size? Do you want to go a higher KV pitch or higher KV motor to match this lower sized prop? So again, you could go to a 2207 and you could run this 4.9 pitch prop and that 4.9 inch prop, sorry, and you could potentially gain some power and gain a little bit of thrust. But again, all of these things come with certain compromises, and if you go to a higher KV, you're going to lose some low end torque and some low end adjustability of the throttle, because you don't have that instant response anymore, and it kind of balloons and does things like that. If you go to a higher pitch prop, it's going to do different things like add more pitch. In an instance where you want to go 5% in throttle, it might jump 8 to 10, and you're not expecting that, so you have to compensate by learning that pitch or that prop or learning your setup. So I design things for me to fly the certain way that I want, and then in our case at ETHiX at least, I designed some props that might suit different applications. Like, hey, I realize that I live at whatever 1,000 feet above sea level, and it's very humid here, and it's pretty moderate climate. That in conjunction with this setup, with the props that I fly, works great for me. If I were at 5,000 feet above sea level, I would want more pitch, but I would prefer the same setup. I would just want more pitch. So this hence the reasoning for P3, P3.5, P4, or P5. There's just, well, there's not a P5, but there's an S5. So anyways, there's like plenty of versions of props to accommodate for different weights of quads and different elevations that you're flying at. Now, let me get into some of the other stuff. Like, I've been testing some new motors. I'm not going to tell you what they're all about, but I'm just going to tell you that they're similar to a motor that's currently out that I made for a specific reason, to carry a GoPro. So they're a little larger than my typical 2306 motors, And also they weigh a little bit more. So this motor weighs about 32 grams on each corner. Those motors weigh about 35. You would think that wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's a big deal. 10 grams on each end, but it's the furthest point away from the center line. It makes a difference. Although it may not make a difference to everybody, I can tell the difference, and I don't prefer it. I like a lighter motor, a snappier motor, but obviously that comes with consequence. Maybe if the motor's lighter, it's gonna be a little less durable. So again, there's always some compromise, and just really picking what you have desired to fly like, whether that's, oh, I fly bandos all day, I want something that's super heavy and durable and I don't have to replace every 5 seconds. Oh, I fly in a field all day, I never touch the ground, but when I do, it's grass and I don't have to worry about it. So I can run lighter quads and I can do flippy floppies and stuff like that, and I don't have to worry about super durability. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is this. This quad has a prototype ESC in it. It's been announced. I don't know exactly what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say, but I'm gonna say some things because it has been told. So SFOC, which is the new FETTEC ESC, okay? And since FETTEC has come out, and believe me, Felix, which is like the mastermind behind KISS originally, and then some people came in and he parted ways and started FETTEC with some other people. Since the beginning, since KISS 18, KISS 12 amp ESCs, like literally 2013, 2014, I have been all about what Felix makes. I love what he does. I love the way that he goes about making things. He wants to keep them simple, the idea behind KISS, and make them literally just do one thing, which is fly really, really well, and that's it. Obviously, there's more modern things. People want all these extra features. They have digital systems. They want OSD. So there's always like convoluted things where you're adding and adding and adding and adding, and that little one thing could change the code in a way that it makes it fly less well. So back to the roots of KISS, I've flown KISS literally since day one. I flew like a Simon K flashed BL Heli, or not, BL Heli wasn't a thing, Simon K flashed little 12 amp Blue Series ESC from Hobby King. You had to literally like flash it yourself, and if you let go, it would fucking brick and you'd never see you'd never work it again. But they cost $12, and they also blew up a lot. But anyways, I've flown KISS since like 2013, and literally up until today, I have flown KISS predominantly. Now, let me say that with a caveat. I'm sponsored by FETTEC, and I love what Felix does. I've flown an older KISS firmware on a G4 with a FETTEC 45 amp. So I'm using FETTEC hardware and FETTEC ESC software firmware, but I was using an older KISS firmware from like 2020. And the reason I did that is because Alpha is brand new. It was brand new when I started flying it. I don't know, whatever that was, 2021 or 2020. I don't even know how long it's been now. And obviously when things are new, there's a teething period, and I understand that. And I've flown it. I have quads that are predominantly like on Alpha all the time. All of my HD rigs fly Alpha. But when it came to like my style of freestyle and flying like super aggressively, and flipping and flopping and doing all the stuff that I like to do, and having the throttle management and the rates being exactly like I know what they are based on the older KISS stuff. The way that flew, I've never changed, and I just kept going back to that older firmware. And up until today, and this is weird because I don't really understand, but it's fucking awesome. I flew this SFOC on a newer gyro. So I was also a huge advocate of the MPU 6000, which is an older gyro that was used on the old KISS stuff and pretty much every flight controller up until recently. And I don't know if it's a chip shortage or a reasoning behind going to this other flight control, or this other gyro that's used now. I don't remember the numbers on it, but it's like a 6542 or something like that. It's slightly different, and I have like A-Beat it, MPU 6000, newer gyro. Same tune, obviously same tune didn't work. Changed the tune, tried to get it adjusted the way that I felt like it was going to do. And I'm not saying it's impossible to get a quad to fly like my MPU 6000 quads, but I'm just letting you know that comparatively, I was unable personally to get the newer gyro to fly like my older KISS setup on the MPU 6000. And moral of the story is I just flashed the new gyro flight controller because I ended up bricking a couple gyros, or not gyros, but flight controllers, trying to do something last night that was completely unrelated, based on my computer just being retarded. Sorry. And yeah, so newer gyro and this SFOC ESC. And first flight on it, like, PIDs are a little modified because I had the PID Toolbox guy send me a tune for alpha on my HD quads. But anyways, like, fairly like out of the box PIDs. They're not like super crazily modified. But the PID tune from my GoPro quad, which weighs about 720 grams, and just basic, this is all beta, so it's like, but it's the basic, the most up-to-date firmware. And this thing, and for whatever reason, now I can get the rates to feel the same. I always did the rate calculator with alpha, and it was never perfect. Like, the lower end was a little too steep, even though the upper end rate was the same. And it just never felt right, and there was only 2 adjustments, there wasn't 3, so I couldn't get it where I wanted it to, but I've dialed in the rates now, and this quad reads my mind, and it has less bounce back. I'm not having to fly around the bounce back, and I don't have to worry about that stupid, when you clip stuff and the quad falls out of the sky. So I'm not even gonna talk anymore. I've been talking for, I don't even know now, a hot minute. 16 of those hot minutes. I'm just gonna turn on a quad and I'm gonna fly this SFOC quad because I think
Welcome to Mambo.
It's worth it. It's worth to just see like how this quad flies. And I'll talk to you while I do it because it's pretty awesome. Check, check, check. All right, so
telemetry recovered.
Obviously, I'm gonna fly this thing for you guys. And let me start my little camera here so you can see my fingers. Oh no, we all upside down on that sucker. So I'm gonna start this, get the DVR going. But yeah, I don't have any OSD, like I said earlier. My goggle battery is very upset right now, but we're just gonna rip it anyways. And yeah, I'm not saying this is the best thing in the world. I did say it blew my mind, but I want to say that with a caveat, as in I have that one quad, this quad right here, that flies perfectly, but it has like little quirks that I fly around. This thing with the newer gyro, and nothing changed other than the ESC and maybe some coding with the PIDs. I think the tune could use a little bit of work now, obviously, just having put some packs through this thing, because it does have just a little bit of things that are wrong with it. But I'm just gonna fly it. I'll talk you through it. If I feel anything funky, I'll say, hey, that happened. This is funky. So the rates are about 95% of the KISS rates that I'm like super familiar with. It's still a little slow in some, seems like only sometimes is it slow though. But like right there, all that like twitchy movement, if you do that with like other things, it doesn't like it. So there was like a bobble there, but I did it. It was like my flub on the stick. And then I always do this thing where I kind of come out at an arc, and right there it should have prop washed like super hard. And again, I have no OSD, so I have no idea what the hell's going on with the power. I can feel the battery getting a little sloppy, but it's a little bounce back right there on roll. But I'm like trying to be as aggressive as I can. And then if you just fly smooth, which is, oh God. Got a little too low there, guy. Let's try that again. Rewind. But yeah, I'm full throttle, so the battery's just really unhappy. But yeah, like fly super smooth. Oh God, almost washed out into that tree. I think the battery's just sagging. Oh my God. So it like got caught in the tree, threw me into the woods. Then I fixed it and rearmed, and it was terrifying. But what I was trying to get across is, without this battery really crying at me, It's like 16 volts, I can tell. But you fly nice and smooth and low. It doesn't have a lot of pitch bobble. See, like I can blip throttle. Very little pitch bobble. Like very little prop wash. Overall, like center stick feels really good. I don't have a lot of battery left, but show you like the low end throttle is pretty precise. Like I can come in here and possibly land on this without being able to see it because I have a lot of camera angle. But like low throttle seemingly is very, very precise. And when you touch stuff, it doesn't like bounce everywhere, which is fucking cool. And it doesn't bounce all over the place. Like there's a lot of things that I like about this, that you can hit stuff and it doesn't freak the gyro out. I don't know, man. There's just something special going on that I can't put my finger on. But it's something that my other quad has, and I haven't been able to manipulate any kind of quads to feel like that quad. Also, it seems like I get a little bit more flight time for whatever reason. I don't know if it's more efficient. Maybe it's, I know it's less heat for sure. Like when I come in here in a second. And the PIDs again are not tuned perfectly, but let's see how hot everything is. Like very cool. Like I can put my face on this motor. It's not even remotely hot. Like it's warm, but like not hot. I don't know how else to show you that it's not hot, which is crazy. I don't know what this battery's at, but I would bet it's at like 20 volts, 22 volts, which if I had flown that long on my previous setup, the motors would have been on fire and it would have been at like 4 volts. We have my favorite quad of all time with some props, some J33s, I think. And the motors are scorching because I just flew it and broke a strap. Because I was flying a little too hard, bro, a little too hard. But we're gonna go back up. We're gonna fly a fresh battery. We're gonna see if we can get some flippy floppies to get some flippy floppies. Little pitch bobble, but I fly around that. I think I'm like hindered by how little thrust these props have. Like there's really no huckability. And I say that literally, these things are like 0.2 inches smaller. I will say that this quad still flies really well. Dude, there's a 350Z trumpeting its way down the scrits. That was actually my mistakes on the stick that made that gross. Dude, the butter. I think just low pitch props are the move in general. So I like low pitch props, but I think I've lost a little bit of overall like power. And I think you could obviously get away with that by getting a bigger motor, but at what point is it where you're just adding extra weight because your prop isn't beefy enough to compensate for how much thrust you want? Dude, that wind chime freaks me out every time. Kelsey put this like little wind chime down. So I'm having to use a lot more like mid throttle to stay places. I guarantee my motors are like absurdly hot right now. I didn't even look at the amp draw. What do we think the amp draw is? 83. That's not bad. Oh, I did that little desync thing there where you touch something on that old firmware. Yeah, see? Whoa, just kind of throw it in there. I don't know the style of the humans that fly 4.9, but I think it's very like aggressive and flowy in the field. like stuff like this, where they're like, I got you, bro. Look at my trippy spin in the field. Oh, I'm at fucking 19 volts. But I don't necessarily think there's a, I don't think you do anything. I don't think this prop provides anything that any other prop would, other than it's different. Maybe a little higher RPM, maybe. No OSD. What do we got? Oh yeah, it was a battery. All the RPMs. Yeah, rolls a little doughy, but damn. I can't see anything with this freaking OSD thing in the way. Get out of the way there. There's a little bobble there. I don't usually have this much confidence with other prototype things. But that crop, man, got a little extra boof. I think it's hitting a higher RPM too. And it might just be because the FETs are a little bigger. This is a 65 amp ESC. Oh, and it didn't do the thing. That was the perfect example of if you touch something with the other quad, it would have fallen out of the sky like 560 times and just exploded. It would have killed me. I would have not been able to save it. Oh God. Ha! Gotcha, bitch. It's a lot of throttle. Let's slow it down. Let's get some low throttle, low and slow, low and fast. This is kind of where my other quad shines, is when you're like really low and cooking around something real nice and smooth. Throttle control. I feel like I lost some packets of information there, of control packets, because it felt a little funky. I bet the juicy, flippy, flocky, like, these dudes fucking love this thing. They're like, oh God, bro, look at it. It flies low to the grass and flips fast. Oh yeah. My flow is fucking epic. Look at my flow, bro. Look at my flow. Look at my flow. I'm in a field. I can disarm and catch it, bro. Look at the flow. Oh yeah, this battery is really unhappy. Like, extremely unhappy. So anyways, that was just some raw testing for you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm impressed with this new SFOC thing. So hopefully by the time it comes out to the public, it will be fucking dialed to 11, because right now it's dialed to like 10.5. And I think it's like special. So there's a lot of hope for me, because this quad, something special about it. Something, I don't know. But I think my other quads, it's got beat for sure. But I don't know about that one. It's close. It's very close. See you.